Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second series of the four-part webinar on procurement and of our Procurement Masterclass. So this one is developing effective capability statements, and my name is Christina Espiritu. I am the procurement manager for PACE, which is Pacific Asian Consortium and Employment. So I see people just trickling in. So welcome everyone. Okay, we will get started. Just a few housekeeping items. Make sure that you are on listening mode. And I'm gonna take questions either as we go along, or and then if we have time later on as well. So I'll gauge it. I'll gauge the questions, but please make sure that you raise your hand icon if you would like to be unmuted and ask questions. And then you can also go on the Q&A to post questions as well. And then, as I said, we're gonna try to do a little bit of Q&A session towards the end. I'm trying to allot about 10 to 15 minutes, but then also keep in mind that if you don't get to have your questions answered during this webinar, we'll have time either later on, or you can contact me after. And then we're gonna have this webinar recordings just a few days after this. So please visit our e-library, and I'll shoot over a link at the end of this webinar. And then also please complete our survey when the webinar ends. We always appreciate that. And then just a couple items too. Please feel free to use the chat. We always love to see who's on the chat. So if you want to put your name, your company, and also the industry that you're in, so I can kind of gauge who's there. And then also it gives you a chance to get to know each other in the chat and hopefully, do a little bit of networking on the side. And then just a little bit of information about PACE. So as I mentioned, PACE is Pacific Asian Consortium and Employment. So we are a nonprofit organization, and we've been around since the 70s as a nonprofit organization. And then our BDC, which is the Business Development Center, has been around since the 80s. So I'm part of the PACE Business Development Center, and this is where we offer one-on-one consulting, which includes some needs and marketing assessment, business plan development, and then also site location and lease negotiation. We also have our entrepreneur training program for those of you who are just starting out and really wanted a comprehensive training program that helps you with step-by-step information about your business. So we do strategic and comprehensive business analysis and also planning prior to launching a venture. We also have a whole bunch of business courses such as this, so including entrepreneurial and accessing capital workshops, fiscal management and accounting, e-commerce, and green business, and many, many more. So if you visit our e-library, we have hundreds of different courses that you can take. We also do small business financing, which includes loan qualification and requirements. We do both SBA and non-SBA loans. And then also help you with a little bit of financial reconstruction and planning. And then also, we do some assistance in employee hiring and workforce development, because PACE also has a workforce development center where we do help with outplacement services, retention strategies, organization assessments, and employee skills training. And then I just wanted to pop on the chat and say hello to everyone. So hello to Kata Stone Care, Action Dog Cleaning. Oh, okay. Welcome. Promotional products, beverages. So it seems like you are all in different industries, which is great. Yes. So yeah, so just keep on introducing yourself on the chat. And then the program that I am specifically involved in is the MBDA program. So the MBDA stands for Minority Business Development Agency and is operated by PACE through the network of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And we have been providing access to capital, so connecting private lenders, banks, and investors, providing access to contracts, including assisting with contract and procurement opportunities, and also providing access to markets, which includes positioning to expand client base and operations to global markets. There you go. And just a little bit of table of contents. I think this is what we're covering today. Importance of a capability statement, crafting a compelling capability statement. What are the components of an effective capability statement, some key takeaways, and then we'll have our special guest later on, Linda Rosenberg from CMTC, who will speak a little bit about the organization and also about capability statements. And so just to give you a quick context on where we are on the series. So last week, yes, last week what we did was we had a session on introduction to procurement. So that one talked about what is procurement, key terms in procurement, are you contract ready? And so if you had missed that one, feel free to go pop onto the e-library. There will be a recording. And so as I said, this is the second of four. So then the next one we have will be 2 weeks from now, and then the other one will be 3 weeks from now. So feel free to join those as well. So you really get a really comprehensive overview on procurement. Yes, so yeah, just looking at the chat. So people are putting their names and information. So thank you. So it seems like there are many different industries that are represented as well. So thank you very much. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so first is why do you even need a capability statement and what is it, right? So a capability statement is just a detailed snapshot of your company's products and services that almost serves as a resume for your business. And it's really used to compare and qualify suppliers. So if you think about if you're going to a job fair, right? So you have a resume, your personal resume, that you're presenting to potential employers. So think of a capability statement as something very similar, but is a resume for your business. And it's really something tangible that you can give out to potential quote unquote recruiters, or I would say the ones that are that you're trying to get to buy products and services from you. How are they utilized? So both I would say they're both utilized both online and offline, right? But many different government agencies require that capability statements are submitted as part of a proposal bid packet. So if you're looking for some requests for proposal, if you're looking at online and then you see that, and I don't know, like just quickly on the chat, if you can put, if you've had experience with looking at proposals and if you've seen some where they require that you put down or you submit your capability statements. But those are the ones where a lot of government agencies require that they're submitted. And then prime contractors, if they're looking for subcontractors like you, they may require that you submit capability statements so they're included in their bid proposals. Because as a prime contractor, they have to excuse me, they have to submit a bid proposal. And so many times they have to put down who their subcontractors are. And so they will require that you put down your capability statement. And then government and prime contractors often utilize capability statements to also build the pipeline of pre-qualified subcontractors. And then the last one that I also notice is that if you are going to an actual in-person event and they have procurement officers there, then it's always good and handy to have, aside from your business card, a capability statement that you can hand out quite easily. So with that said, I just wanted to make sure if you have any questions, and then just on the chat, just pop in and say whether you actually first, if you have a capability statement already, and then whether you think that it's been effective or you can use some revisions or some, or second pair of eyes to look at it. But yeah, pop on the chat to see, just to let me know if how many of you have had a capability statement. Okay, so now that we know what a capability statement is, how do we craft one that is compelling? So the biggest thing that I see when I look at a capability statement, and I see this quite often, is it is very, very long. So I have seen one there that almost look like investor decks. So it's in the PowerPoint, and then The last time I saw one was about 10 to 12 pages. So think of a capability statement, as I said, a resume. So if you're, if you're turning in or creating your own personal resume, typically it's about one page, and maybe rarely I've seen 2 pages, but you want it to be very brief because if you are the one recruiting or looking at these, and there are numerous people who've given you a capability statement, you really only have a few seconds to glance at it and to really be able to absorb it. So make sure that it's very brief, and then second is make sure that it has no fluff. So make sure that's straight to the point. With one page, in order to make sure that you get the most impact, you wanted to not have any fluff, right? Make sure that you're straight to the point, and make sure that it's professionally and visually interesting with graphic elements of your company's brand and logo. And so later on, Linda will present some really good capability statements that are not only effective with regards to the word the usage of words, but it's also visually and professionally interesting. And then also create it in Word or Publisher using a template that really reflects your brand logo and colors in your graphic identity. And the reason to also create it in Word or Publisher is because think of a capability statement as a living document. So it's something that you will change or you'll make revisions to as you make changes to your either business model, or you get new customers, or you have, you have more performances that would be more targeted to the business or the agency that you're looking to sell your services to. And then, of course, after you create it in Word or Publisher, make sure you save it as a PDF when you're distributing it. Okay. Okay, so with that said, I'm just gonna pop in the chat and see. Oh, great question. So Michelle asked, opinion on adding NICS code and SIC codes. Yeah, great question. Ahead of the game. So what we're gonna talk about is looking at the components of an effective capability statement. So we will answer that. We will answer that question. Okay, and then there's another question. Is there an access to a template that we could use? Great question as well. After this, what we're gonna do right now is more of a practical exercise on really looking at the components of a capability statement. And then later on, we'll show you just different templates. But what we can do is, there are also some templates on Canva that you can use. So there are many ways that you can actually access a template. Okay, and then someone had said Tanya just drafted a capability statement and gathering inputs and improving it. Okay, perfect. So it seems like numerous people have had capability statements, but it's always good to have a second pair of eyes, right? Or even a third pair of eyes, just to make sure that you cross all your I's and so actually cross your T's and dot your I's. Okay. So what are the components of an effective capability statement? So at this moment, if you have a pen and paper with you, or or if you're on your computer, what I would suggest is that as I'm going along with the primary components of a capability statement, and as I'm going through each portion of it, is that you take notes, but then also think of it in relation to your own business. So as I'm going through each section, just jot down a few different keywords, right? That would relate to the product or service and the business that you have. But just a quick overview of the primary components that you would typically see in a capability statement. So the first one is an executive summary or a business overview. Second one is a core competency portion, which really looks at your primary service and products. The third one is your past performance, which looks at your major contracts and accounts. And then as I said, we'll go through this in greater detail. Fourth one are the key differentiators. So what are your unique skills and methodologies that really sets you apart when someone looks at your capability statement? The other portion would be your company data, which includes your essential company information. So where to contact you. including point of contact, your address, phone, email, and your website, and also pertinent licenses, codes, and certifications. So, for example, if you're in construction, including your contractor's license and permits, any special training certifications. So, for example, this one would be if you're looking for something in food or catering. So maybe they need something that is a training certification related to food handling. And then also other ones would be your unique entity identifier, which is some codes that you would use if you're bidding on proposals for government agencies. So this one is particularly for federal government. And then next code, which someone had mentioned earlier, so we'll go through that in greater detail. And then also small business certifications and also other certifications that you may have, including um, women-owned business certification, veteran, minority business certification, and hub zone. So many different other types of certification that you can add. Okay. Okay, so now we're just gonna go through, as I said, we're just going through these primary components. So the first one would be an executive summary. So this is where I advise you. So if you have a pen and paper, as I'm going through this in in greater detail, if we can make this more of a practical exercise, because it's easier to go through this, and then as I'm giving you keywords, you may be able to, it may trigger some keywords for your business that you can put for specific parts of your capability statement. So what's an executive summary? So an executive summary is really designed to detail your company's services and why you are an exact supplier fit for that agency or prime contractor that you are applying for. So it really details your company's expertise, the industries that you've served, the years of experience, your special skills and credentials, and also your small business certifications, and also why you should be considered a qualified supplier. So as I said, because you are really limited for prime space when you're doing this capability statement, because as I mentioned before, you're trying to keep it to one page, right? So you want to make sure that you get to the point. So just an example is this one. So this one is an example of a construction company executive summary. So as I'm just gonna point out the pertinent sections of it. So this company is a Saturn Concrete Construction. So it talks about where it's founded, when it's founded. So it's founded in April 2010. So that one really shows the length of time that you've been around, right? And it talks about what type of contractor they are and then the years of experience. So they are a general B licensed contractor. So that talks about the license with over 12 years experience in the construction industry. So as you can say, just in the first statement or first sentence, it already tells you straight out who they are. And then the second portion talks about what they specialize in. So they specialize in commercial and residential projects, including wood and metal framing, concrete, concrete foundation, plumbing, and electrical wiring services. So this one has all the typical keywords that you would see. So if I am a prime who is looking for a subprime or an agency looking for a supplier, this one really details what your specialization is, just on the second sentence. And they have approximately 10 years of construction project management experience. And then they talk about how they've worked on several public works projects. And then also what they've possessed, small business certification, including DBE, SBE. So DBE is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, SBE is Small Business Enterprise, MBE is Minority Business Enterprise, and also Hub Zone. And they are a member of the Southern California Contractors Association. So as you can see, just looking at the executive summary, you can already pinpoint who they are. If you know nothing else about them, just looking at this summary will tell you straight out, do I want to work with this company or not? Do they have the product or service that I'm looking for? So this, I will just give you a couple seconds to look at it, and then also give you a few seconds to just quickly jot down what your executive summary keywords would be if it was pertinent to your business. And if you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat.
Christina, I can read you some of the questions if that's helpful.
Oh, that would be perfect. Yeah.
Will the deck and/or recording be shared afterwards?
Yes. Yep, it will be.
And does this information apply to nonprofits as well?
Not really, right? Because this is more geared towards businesses, for-profit businesses that are looking to work with agencies, and then also with prime contractors.
Okay. And then there was a question, who do we contact to begin working with PACE to receive services?
Oh, excellent question. Prime question. So that would be me. So later on, what I'll do is towards the end of this section or towards the end of this webinar, we have a QR code that you can scan if you wanted to work with PACE. So.
There was also a question, is there any access to a template we could use?
Yeah, so the template, once we do, so what I recommend usually the way that people work with me is like after this, if you have a template that you would, if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, then I will provide you a template because I have a few different templates, but it really depends on your industry as well. So, but great question.
And there's one other question I see. Any tips
Uh-huh.
for companies who are new in business and don't have any company experience?
Okay, so that one is a little tricky. I've had a few different companies that are in that same situation. Like one company that I had worked with, like she was very new. However, she's had experience with the same type of products and services. It was just through an employer. She had her employer and she was working as a W-2 employee. So what I suggested was really putting down the core competencies that she had. So, and then, it's it's really up to you if you find whether you're gonna put your founding date, right? Because if you founded your company, 6 months ago, so that may be something more of a red flag. But then what I told her was to put down her years of experience. So,
And then also the webinar that you did last week, the last webinar in the series, the
mhm.
first webinar, I think you did also talk about contract readiness. So
Yes.
that would be a great recording for anyone who hasn't attended the first webinar. Really for anybody, but especially a newer business to watch that recording as well.
Yes, excellent question. Yes, yeah, because what happens is, a lot of people look at and get really excited about RFPs and RFQs and looking and working with the federal government. But then one thing you have to realize is the competition that you have, right? And then really kind of taking a hard look and saying, are you really ready for those types of contracts? Because those contracts, a lot of those contracts are maybe a lot more comprehensive and bigger than that what you realize. And so first you have to think, are you really contract ready? Because especially let's say you're in construction, there are some requirements of bonding or even insurance that may be a little bit more difficult for a business that has, that's newly formed to actually get, right? Yes, but yeah, so just make sure when I do the QR code of the e-library to make sure that you read to watch the first session. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you guys got a chance to really just, do a little bit of a deep dive on some of the keywords that you would use for your business. So second part is your core competency. Excuse me. So what are core competencies? So those are the primary services and products that your company offers. And then what I recommend is that they are bullet point formatted so they can be reader friendly. And then you start with your company's best qualified products and services. And then I'll talk about that a little bit later. Comprehensive range of services and products. And be industry specific and really list what the buyer is looking for. And then this is really showcasing a menu of your company's professional services. So this one, it's kind of like the same as when you're doing a regular resume, right? When you're giving it to an employer. Well, you have a general one. What you wanted to do is to really tailor it to the employer or the company that you want to work for. So it's a little bit similar to with these core competencies, because what I always suggest is you have a general one, and then let's say you're a contractor, and as we've seen before, you have many different types of products and services. So then you kind of pick, maybe you have one that is for electrical, if you're looking for prime contractors that are in electrical, or someone that is in wood and framing, right? So you want to make sure that you tailor your core competencies and skills to match the opportunities that you're looking for and that you're seeking. And so this is just a sample of some of the core competencies, excuse me, that you would put as a bullet point. So for example, if you are in software applications, so you do software application development, technologies, business intelligence, project management, analysis, web development, cloud technology. So as you can see, for someone who is in software development and IT, looking at this, I already know whether I want to hire you or not, or whether you have the skills and competencies that I'm looking for, right? Okay. So with that said, I'm just gonna go and pause here if I see any questions on the chat. So we've gone through the executive summary and then the core competencies.
Somebody asked, when would someone ask for a capability statement?
Oh, great question. If you are doing an in-person event, so for example, I had gone to a supplier diversity event that is in healthcare, about 3 or 4 vendors there or agencies had asked, "Oh, do you have a capability statement?" So quite often, because this is something that is pretty common, I would always say if you're going to a networking event, just make sure you have your capability statement along with your business card. And then, as I said, I mentioned earlier, capability statement and can also be included if you're doing a bid proposal online. So let's say you find a bid proposal on Ramp LA. And then they have a bid packet, and some of them may say, okay, can you also submit a capability statement? Okay. So then the next section would be past performance. So this one, as I always liken it to a personal resume, right? So this one, if you're looking, if a personal resume looks at your job in some sort of chronological order, your past position. So this one looks at your company's actual past performance and history. So making sure that you list your major client contracts, your past business customers of similar work performed, and I will go through this in greater detail, listing the contracts with related and similarly sized agencies. And then if if it's more of a general one, I suggest following a hierarchy. So there's federal, state, county, city, and then also commercial with regards to the past performance that you've had. Then also making sure that the ones that you've chosen really showcases your company's actual performance expertise, and also include past related services performed as an employee for other companies, which is if you don't have, let's say you've just started your business, but you've had 20 years of experience as an employee for another company, and the products and services that you're offering are very similar to your business right now. Oops. And then, oopsie, there you go. And then also, the last one would be show that your company has the exact work experience to get the job done. And just to give you an example of this, I'm working on a construction company capability statement, but then he does something in tenant improvements. But he wanted to target 3 different agencies. One is for the Department of Energy, the other one is for the Department of Defense, and then the other one is for a utility company. But he's had major, major performance history. So the way that we had done the past performance was that we had put down, like for example, for the one for the Department of Energy, we had put down similar performances that he's done for a similar agency. And then the one where it was for SoCal Edison and And then for the water district, we had done past performance history that is specific to those types of agencies. So we made sure that we catered the performance depending on who you're submitting your capability statement to. And then just two samples that I've seen. So one would be sort of like a bullet point. So for example, County of LA would be business analysis, City of LA, Fannie Mae, Merrill Lynch, ADP, and then Blue Cross. So as you say, this one has some sort of structure where first one would be the agencies, and then the second portion would be our secondary are more of the private companies that they've worked with. So there are different ones, right? So you can do the past performance based on the agency, and I've also seen some where they've done it based on the core competency. So for example, business analysis. It could be County of LA, City of LA, Fannie Mae, right? So there are a few different ones. There are a few different ways that you can actually do some sort of hierarchy on the past performance. So this one is just based on the whether it's public and private. And then this one, I think this one because they're both private. I think this one is more yeah, well, the way that it's structured is more of a narrative. But let's say if one was established in 2010, the other one is 2007, then some sort of chronological order could also work with how you do the past performance. Okay. Yes, yes. So Michelle had said past performance is difficult to fit on a one-page capability statement, and I just add the clients. Yes. So this is similar to the first sample where you just go back where we have the client and then also an indication of the service that they've done for the client. So this one, if you put this one, it's a little bit more shortened because then what you have is I always say just have the keywords or the buzzwords that would really catch the interest of whoever's looking at it. Because if they're interested and if they see that you have the experience, then they will ask you more information. But this one is really to get your foot in the door. Okay. So how are you guys doing on doing the sections? Okay. So feel free to put in the chat how you guys are doing if you have any questions for me as well. Okay. So then the other section that's really important are the key differentiators. So these are your company's sales section. So a list of unique factors and benefits that your company's products or services have, which will set you apart from the competition. So this really showcases how your business is best suited for the needs of the targeted agency, and then also a clear statement that relates to the specific need of that agency. So one thing I really say with this is help them choose your company. Give them, basically make it easy for them to choose your company. So just a couple of there you go. So put down what sets you apart from your competitors and what is your clear value proposition or your value added services. And then I also say to list your company's highest quality skill set and then your unique, if you have anything unique. So whether it's a methodology or a credential or licensing, training, equipment, use of technology or experience. So really make sure you showcase that one. Something that would really catch their eye and pop when they look at your capability statement. And then also a statement that specifically addresses the agency's request for services. So one thing I can think about this with one of my clients is that so she was working with something with safety and compliance. She was doing something she had a warehouse, but then she had, and I can't really remember the exact measurement of it, but it talked about like how many days or months they have been accident free. So that's something that really caught my eye. I said, "Wow, I can't believe you've been accident free for that long." And then I asked, "So what makes you different? Like how were you able to achieve that?" So make sure that the key differentiators are something that would really catch and then catch their eye. Right? So some samples of what your key differentiators are. So let's say this company is G-Tech. So they remain competitive by lowering down overhead costs without compromising service, and they have achieved sustainable growth because of their pricing structure. So let's say this is a tech company. So what are we saying here? What are their key differentiators? Maybe they have the green eco-friendly products. They have employee trained that are advanced. And then so this one you can even put down what advanced training or skills your employees have. Any quality control specialists that are assigned to each site. If you do biweekly inspections, emergency services, whether the clients can reach you 24/7, 365 days a year, and whether you're fully insured and bonded. So some of them, this one would be, I would say, this one could use a little bit more, I would say like a little bit more um, quantitative specifications if you can. As I said, for the employee trained, how many years, your employee have been trained, and then what kind of training they have, and then biweekly inspection. So some of these I think could be a little bit more specific and focused. Okay. So with that said, I'm just gonna go and pop in the chat. Are there any questions so far? Or are you guys ahead of me that you've done your capability statements and you're ready for me to look at it, right? Okay, the last part or one of the last portions with your company data. So this one showcases your company's important info. So how can they reach you? So your point of contact, whether it's a specific person to officially represent the company, their credentials, your web address, and then also your business location. So identifying the geographic locations from which your company operates. And also, this one is important if you are in a business where you actually need licenses and codes. So, for example, construction or healthcare, or even manufacturing. So, any pertinent information and numerical identifiers, such as your unique entity identifiers, your cage codes, commercial and government entities. NICS code, which someone had asked earlier. NICS code is an industry classification that every company, so let's say if you're in the construction company, construction industry, there is a NICS code for that. If you are in healthcare, there's a NICS code for that. If you're in professional services, there's a NICS code. And the important thing about NICS code and why you have to be very specific about it is that it also helps you when you're looking for opportunities that are in the databases that you're going to be looking for RFPs and RFQs. SAM, which is the System for Awards Management identifier for federal contracts, any contractor licenses and special permits that you have, and as I also mentioned, small business certifications such as HubZone, small business, women-owned business, minority-owned business, veteran business, and all these different acronyms that we'll talk about on the fourth session. Okay. Okay. Yes, so you can also add your certification logos if allowed, such as CPUC and any women certifications. Yes. So we'll see some of the examples later on. If you have the space for it, it's always good to have something that's visually appealing. So if your certifications have logos on it, that's something that you can add as well. So great point. And just some quick key takeaways. As I mentioned earlier, a capability statement is really an important element in marketing and promoting your business. And it informs your existing and potential customers about your business capabilities, including, I would say, who you are, what you're selling, and what your core competencies are that you're bringing to the table. And it includes specific information about your products and services, your qualifications and credentials, differentiators, and also your corporate data. And as I mentioned, you have to put this in one brief, one page. So it's always good to be very mindful about the words that you're using and also the keywords that you wanted to pop in there. And readers, once they look at your capability statement, readers will visit your websites for additional information or any of your social media accounts. So just make sure that you are ready and then they are quite consistent with the capability statement that you have. And so then make sure your website is updated and then government and procurement focused, or there's a section that would be focused on that on those industries. And then update your capability statement regularly to include current product services and your corporate information. Because as I said, your capability statement is something that's a living document. So if you get, a new contract or a new customer that you think would be pertinent for the job that you're looking for, the one that you're applying for, then that's something that you want to add. So with that said, before I pop in and introduce our special guest, any questions on the chat? I don't see anything. Okay, let's see. Maybe what you recommend is barely fit. Okay. Yeah. So, what do you recommend? I can barely fit. I'm just reading one of the comments on the chat. What do you recommend? I can barely fit into one page. I also list the principles on the capability statement. And if you mean principles as in the key employers, you know what, Michelle? So this is what I would recommend if you wanted to go and show me your capability statement later on, because there may be some things there that may not be important for the the company that you're applying for, or the company that you're seeking vendor services from, right? So for example, like the list of principles, they may or may not be an important portion of your capability statement. Maybe that's something that you can add later on, or but unless the principles add something that is value is as a value, like they have a special certification, um, you may not need to list them there, and you may just need to list the certification, or just say in aggregate our principals have 50 years of experience in total, and they have these types of certifications. But what I would suggest is that I think if you focus on just targeting and the specific keywords that are for that agency or that prime that you're seeking to do business with, I think you should be able to pop them all in just one page. Yes, yes. I'll give you my information later on. So with that said, I wanted to give a special welcome to our guest. So she's been kind enough to also read the questions on the chat. So welcome, Linda. Linda is from CMTC, and she will tell us what CMTC is all about. And she is a senior client advisor.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Linda Rosenberg, a Senior Client Advisor for CMTC. We are a nonprofit consulting and training organization that helps small to medium-sized California manufacturers with growing their business, with improving their profitability and productivity, upskilling their workforce, helping them save money. We're really a 360-degree partner for all different types of California manufacturers. So thanks for having me on today, and really, really great guidance and advice from Christina. What I wanted to do was just take a few minutes to share a couple of examples of capability statements that we helped some of our clients put together. And just before I share and actually you're going to have to probably stop sharing in a second.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stop sharing.
Actually, you know what? You don't even need it. I'll automatically kick you out when I start
Yes,
sharing,
okay.
so that's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
So, but I would just encourage you to always think about your audience, and it's all about what's in it for them. So anything in your capability statement or any type of marketing communication tool for that matter, you should always be thinking about how is this going to be received? What's in it for the audience? And are you clearly making the case where you're the glove that fits the hand, So, and less is more. So I know very well it can be really hard to fit, everything on one page. But if there's anything you're thinking, is this really needed? Or can I say it? Probably it isn't. Or can I say it in a shorter, more bulleted way? You probably can. So I would just be very discerning about what you include, and it should be the highlights. It's not meant to be a laundry list of every single solitary thing about your business or every single customer you've ever served. It's really the highlights. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen, and I am going to first share the capability statement for Sign Zone LA. Maybe I'll make it a little bigger. And we'll scroll down so you can see the whole thing. But this is really bringing what Christina shared into life in a full document. And this is a one page. So it's, clearly labeled what it is. It's the about us or key kind of executive summary. You might call it different things about the company. So Sign Zone makes all different types of exterior and interior signs. They have core competencies in every different type of signage. And by the way, I'll mention they're able to do more than just the amount that these 9 types of signs that are listed, but these are some of their I guess most in demand types of signage and areas where they can add value that not necessarily everyone is an expert. For example, ADA signage. This impacts so many buildings now, and there are tons of regulations that most companies aren't familiar with. So that's a really key one. Illuminated channel letters. They do electrical work. They're UL certified. A lot of sign companies aren't. So it's really, understanding what are your key differentiators, what can you do really well that sets you apart. And so here you can see differentiators. And as Christina shared in her examples, there are lots of different things types of differentiators that can apply here. But if you're having trouble thinking about what to put, think about the clients that work with you already. Why do they work with you instead of your competitors? What is your kind of magic sauce, right? And those are the things that should be included here. So the corporate data, yeah, the NAICS codes, as Christina mentioned, some that's super, super important. The CAGE code, that's from sam.gov. Product and service code, all these different things. And then in terms of certification, so they have the small business enterprise through the Department of General Services. Some people talked about logos versus text. Do you have your certification logos or client logos, or do you have text? And it partly depends on the quantity of information that you want to share on your capability statement and what you've room for. Because obviously logos take up more room than text. So it's kind of a decision to make. And they have a contractor's license. And then past performance. So SignZone has actually been around for about 20 years. So of course they've done way more signage than just this. And they've done tons of private stuff for retail stores and hotels and restaurants and different things. But thinking about their audience here for kind of government contracting and healthcare, these are what are going to be most relevant. So that's what they listed here. And then my Zoom control panel is blocking my bottom view, but here we go. The point of contact information, and you'll want to make sure that any links like an email or a website link that you have in your capability statement, that the link is active. You don't want somebody to be on your capability statement and want to get to your website and not be able to get there directly, from the capability statement. So I'm going to show another example, but before I do, Christina, were there any questions in the chat that I should address first?
No, but I just have a couple comments. So as you can see, it's first of all, this one is organized, right? My biggest thing is always making it easier for a reader. Like I don't want to have to strain my eyes and then, so I always like it when they're visually appealing because it just makes it much easier to look at. And then also that they're organized. So this one, and then it's beautiful. It shows you like their logo and their brand colors.
Yeah, great points. And so, yeah, the actual design, the look and feel, and its readability are really important. And so also if you have, as Christina mentioned, you want it to be a dynamic document too. So if you want to adjust something based on your audience or where your RFP or RFQ, that you can tailor it. But, there's also tools like Canva, or if you have a graphic designer, or if you're working with someone like CMTC, or you have in-house design talent, there are ways to do that as well. So I'm going to go then to Action Duck. So another client of CMTC's. And let me make this bigger and then I'll zoom out so you can see the whole thing at once. So you'll see there's some differences here, but the key components are all there. So here, Action Duct, which is a, well, actually, we'll go into the capability statement. You'll see who they are. But they have WeBank certification for women-owned business and women-owned small business through the SBA. And here we decided to actually put the logos because we wanted to really, really highlight that. Here's their website. So core competencies. This business has been around since 1978, and they provide all sorts of duct cleaning and specialty cleaning services to government entities, small businesses, residences, industrial, commercial, hospital, school, military clients. So, and if you go to their website, the number of services they provide is like 10 times what's here. But these are kind of their core services and what's going to be probably most relevant to the audience that this capability statement will reach. So company snapshot, again, that core information, and they also have California state contractors licenses. So those are listed there. And other certifications that are that are relevant to their industries. Then past performance, they've been around for over 45 years. So they've worked with literally tens of thousands of clients across, commercial, industrial, and residential. But again, this isn't a laundry list. It's, key names that show this company knows what they're doing. They have an excellent reputation, and, to build credibility for yourself. And then primary NAICS and product and service codes are here. So you really want to make sure you're including every NAICS product and service code that could be relevant to your business. And then differentiators here, these are totally different than for Sign Zone, and they're very relevant specifically to clients that could use Action Duct's services. And then the key point of contact. And again, here, what Christina said about not necessarily listing multiple contacts, but just who is the key person. One set of contact information, so it's really clear. And then certifications, Action Duct is really highly certified. I mean, they're certified in literally like the highest standards for every service which they provide. And so we decided, let's actually do the logos for this. It really sets them apart rather than just listing these in text format. And then to just show kind of the whole thing at once. Again, here the links are active. And so that's for Action Duct. And somebody asked a question, do they need to share tax ID in capability statement? That's a no, isn't it? You don't need to have, well, I'll let you
No.
answer that, Christina. You're the expert.
Yeah, no. That's something you don't really need to share. Yeah.
Yeah, so before I move on from this, are there any questions or comments related to the capability statements? Okay, let's see. Did ask
Yeah.
unique entity ID. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, but that's different from the tax ID. I think it's almost the same as like you sharing your social security number on a resume, right? So that's something you wouldn't share, similar to like a tax ID number. I think that's a bit more sensitive information.
Yeah.
So yeah. But with this one, the comments I would make is that you can see that they've put a lot of, they've invested a lot of real estate on the certifications because I'm assuming just the type of services that you have and then the types of clients that you have, which is probably a little bit more like sophisticated and also sensitive, right? Like NASA and like Chevron and stuff that they really pride on having these certifications. It's really important to them. So that's why it's given a lot of like retail, like real estate space on a capability statement.
Yeah, no, exactly. Somebody commented Action Duct can add WeBank logo. I'm not sure, Michelle, if you mean that you could do that for your capability statement, or yeah, or if you're referring to having it here. So we didn't want to repeat it twice. Like, you shouldn't really need to repeat the same point or same graphic in two places because there's very limited real estate. And
Yeah.
then there was a question, Christina, do we need to add the description of the NAICS codes?
I would say no, just put the number down. Like if you're really, if you don't have enough space, because anyone who's looking at your capability statement will be familiar with the next code that they're looking for. So, so I
Yeah,
think it depends. Yeah, it just really depends on how much space you have, you
yeah,
know.
we were able to get creative with design, so we fit it, but I guess it's not,
Yeah.
okay. So if there are there, before I move on, are there any other questions or comments regarding for me or Christina on the capability statements? Okay, then I'm just going to switch quickly to here. So just a few oh, I think you're seeing my, well, whatever. You might be seeing the presenter screen, but that's okay. We have limited time. So just a few things that might be of interest. So CMTC, we have a lot of great webinars and all different types of topics, as does PACE. We have, different focus areas. So I just thought if anyone wants to get their camera out and shoot, scan any of these QR codes, we have 2 upcoming webinars on safety that should be very, very practical and valuable. And you can use this QR code or this link to sign up for both of them. We have a buyer supplier marketplace. It's called California Sourcing and Procurement Platform. So that's just another place where you can go to list your business as a supplier. And also if you're looking for certain types of suppliers, you can use it as well to search for that. This is not, your only mechanism for to get your listing out there, but it's another tool in your tool chest. And then if any of you are manufacturers and are interested in help with CMTC, feel free to contact us.
Yeah.
With
And
that,
Linda, if
mhm.
yeah, if you can talk about because maybe people have a certain notion of what manufacturing is. So just talk
Sure.
about like what different types of clients you actually have that's in
Yeah,
manufacturing.
absolutely. Thank you. So there's a very broad spectrum of what constitutes manufacturing in terms of working with us. So any business that is in any way changing the form or function of a product, which might even be literally just your kitting things. You might be doing any part of the manufacturing process in-house, or you might be working with a contract manufacturer, bringing parts in and assembling them or just packing them to ship out. So, and from food to apparel to um, metal fabrication, machine shops, aerospace and defense, plastics, beauty, you name it. We work with clients like that. And also, even if you aren't manufacturing, but you're actually warehousing product in California and shipping it out from your warehouse, you can qualify to work with us. And I can put my info in the chat as well. And that here, I'll share that screen again too with those QR codes. So if anybody wants to scan, because you can also just reach out generally and you'll get connected with either me or with the right client advisor for your geography.
Yeah.
Um,
And then after this webinar, I usually send out an email. So with Linda's information and then my information.